Hi everybody, welcome to A Balanced Kitchen. I'm Nadine Hughes and we are at the March edition answering some of your kitchen and entertaining questions. So this month's lucky people who sent in questions get entered into a draw to win one of 4 3-hour personal meal planning, kitchen planning sessions, whatever they want with me. So if you send in your question, you get entered into the draw. Okay, so don't forget that that's always a great incentive, and also to get your question answered. So we've got 2 questions that I'm going to deal with today. One is from Nancy, and she wants to know a little bit more about using salts, finishing salts, and how she adds flavor to her dishes, and really what the differences are. So we're going to deal with that question first. And salt you'd think would be pretty straightforward, but hopefully you can see on the plate here and some things surrounding me that these are just some of the salts that I keep in my cupboard, and there's so many different types of salts to deal with. Now, you know, we're sort of trained to go, you know, sodium, bad for you, stay away from salt, and absolutely, you've got to watch your sodium intake on a per daily basis and a per weekly basis, obviously. But salts are a great way to add some boost of flavor to your cooking, and an additional, along with texture and also taste. So the first one that you're probably really familiar about is just a traditional iodized salt, which is, let's get these out of the way, so just a traditional table salt. So very fine, very iodine tasting, and I don't use table salt unless I'm baking. So it's very good for baking, and that's why I keep it in my cupboard, but I don't use it for any flavoring of cooking whatsoever. So you've probably all got this really inexpensive $2, you know, whatever it is that you want to use it for in your baking. The second type of salt I want to bring your attention to is kosher salt. Now, kosher salt is my everyday salt. I don't know if you can see, maybe just from doing this versus the iodized salt, it's much coarser, all right, and it's much more of a flavor salt. It doesn't taste like iodine. It's much thicker. This is my everyday. I put it in pasta water. I use cooking to add flavor with the kosher salt as well, and it's the one that I keep on my stovetop all the time, very close, handy by. So that's the one, and again, really inexpensive. Taste it, you'll notice a huge difference, and you don't have to use as much as the iodized salt as you would with the kosher because it's a much stronger flavor. And you'll find that as we talk about all these other salts is that the flavor is much more enhanced if you actually use less salt. So the other third probably salt that you're really familiar with, and then we'll go into some more of the exotic ones, is just a traditional sea salt. So similar to the kosher salt, but it's just a little bit finer, okay? And again, really simple to sprinkle, you know, when you're cooking vegetables, meat, anything like that as well. Sauces, you can use the sea salt as well. Very nice flavor to it. So those 3 white salts, the traditional table salt, the kosher salt, and the sea salt are probably the ones that you're quite familiar with. Now, what you might not be familiar with, as you can see, is some of these different colored salts. So what I have here is I've got a black lava salt, and it's got a really interesting flavor to it, almost a bit smoky, so great on meats, and I don't know if you can hear me crunch it, it's got a texture to it. So when you finish your meal, and we'll talk about finishing salt, when you finish your meal, finish cooking your meal, this is when you use these salts added on top. So think about sprinkling them on top of a steak, something hearty like lamb, or even some of the hearty vegetables. You're going to add a little bit of crunch texture to your meal, and you're also going to add a different flavor. So you're not cooking with these, you're finishing your meal with these. The same thing for this beautiful Murray River sea salt that I picked up in Australia. It's actually a grinder salt. You can get it a little bit finer, but I put it in the grinder. It's this gorgeous, you might not even be able to see it in my hand, pink flaky salt. Has a beautiful flavor and texture again. Love this on a steak or sprinkled on top of a roasted potato. So I've got that little bit of crispy crunchiness of the salt, and then this beautiful flavor, a burst of flavor from the salt as well. Again, just a little tiny bit that you would need. Now there's so many different types. You can get red lava, pink lava, I've seen green lava even, great for St. Patrick's Day this year. But then there's also different types of flavored salts, and these are just some of them that I have here. I've got a friend, Kim, who always brings me salt as a hostess gift, so I love it. It's fantastic. But I have some flavored salts, some lime salt, so really nice in a Mexican flavored dish. I love it sprinkled over avocado with a little bit of cilantro. It's really lovely. I have I can smell it through the package, a smoked salt. So again, a really nice flavor. Think barbecue, think vegetables, way to bump up broccoli by just putting a little bit of smoky salt on the top. I have some salts that have got salt, pepper, and some herbs in here as well, dried herbs, so really a nice addition as well to boost your flavor. Serrano, so a little bit of a spice. And also a truffle, hints of truffle, black truffles in here. So there's so many different types of finishing salts. Experiment a little with them. They're not that expensive. You don't use a lot. So you can, get these little tiny packages. Sometimes some of the great markets like St. Lawrence Market, that sort of idea here in Toronto, you can go down and get some really interesting different finishing salts, and you only need to get a couple of them as well. There's also some Brittany, France, salt. This is sort of a moist, I'm going to see if I can put it out, a moist gray salt. Beautiful flavor as well. Very moist, finishing off again on something a little bit hardier when you've got these big crystals. But then there's also the French fleur de sel, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with as well. Put that out. Again, a little bit of a moist salt, but much flakier. So I love it on something delicate like eggs, or a really light type of vegetable like asparagus, something like that, that can really benefit from a little bit added boost, and again, a little bit of crunch. So again, not to cook with because the flavor will be so intensified, it'll be too salty. Use your kosher salt for that, or your regular sea salt, but these flavored finishing salts are just that. Cook your meal, bring it to the table, have little maybe pots of these salts. What a great idea for some friends to try the different flavors, and you finish it off. Okay, so great way to boost some flavor, and keep your sodium content down too as well, because you're not going to be using as much. So I'm going to try to get this out of the way. So hopefully that answers your question and gives you some ideas on how you can use some different things with some sea salts. The second question comes, I love I'm bringing up the wine. The second question actually comes from Bill, and Bill is a great entertainer, loves to have people over, but he's always really confused about what he should do with the wine that his guests bring him. Should he open it up immediately? Is he expected to? Or if he puts it away, is that considered rude because he doesn't open it up? So there's lots of different answers for this question. And I'm going to just tell you it's personal preference, and I'm going to tell you what I have found over the years being a caterer and being in people's homes and watching them sort of deal with that question and that struggle with that as well, and also personally how I feel when people come into the home. So when somebody brings a bottle of wine to me, I view it as a hostess gift. Thank you very much. Hostess gift, set it aside. Unless I have specifically asked that person to perhaps bring a wine that would match the meal. So if they say, what can I bring? Well, we're going to be having lamb tonight, so maybe you could bring, a hearty Merlot. And then I know specifically that that's what we're going to be using the wine for, and we'll open it up. If in doubt, I always think that as a good host or hostess, you should ask your guest. So they hand you a bottle of wine and you say, lovely, thank you. Did you want to drink this tonight, or should we put this away? Most guests will tell you exactly what it is that they want, and you should abide by that as well, because you are trying to make them feel comfortable. That being said, put yourself in be the guest this time, and think of it this way. If you bring a bottle of wine to somebody as a gift, it's sort of and you want them to open it, it's sort of saying, here you go, but I want to drink it. I want to enjoy it, which is kind of a bit rude. So I always make it very specific when I bring a bottle to somebody's house. I'll say, oh, no, lay it down and, enjoy that later, whatever it may be. And I'm also not assuming that the wine that I brought is going to match the meal. Okay, so if as a host, I've taken a lot of trouble into planning the meal and planning the wines, and chances are I already have them open, breathing, and ready, then I want to make sure that I serve the correct wine, not the best wine. I'm not saying it's that. It's not an elitist thing. The correct wine that I want to match with my food. And as a guest, if I had a guest pushing me to say, oh no, open this, and it didn't really go with it, you can sort of throw off your meal. But you still want to make your guest feel as most comfortable as possible. So you do have to do that as well. So I view it again as wine comes to me as a hostess. It's my hostess gift. I thank them profusely, and I put it aside. If they really want me to open it, absolutely, I will open it. But I will also say, oh yeah, great, maybe we can try that after dinner or before dinner, because I've got this planned for dinner, and I really think it's going to go great with it. So you know what, in the end, it's up to you. It is a personal preference, but that's how I usually deal with wine that comes to me. And hey, let's face it, it's not a bad problem to have, all that wine coming to you. So those are our questions for this month of March. We've had a couple more and we email those back to people. We can't do everything in the video, but hopefully these two ones with the finishing salt and the hostess gift with the wines will sort of help you go through for the next month and start to think about some questions that you might have. So send them to me at Nadine Hughes at simpatico.ca, and we'll answer your questions in April, and we'll also enter you into the draw to win one of 4 personalized custom kitchen packages with me. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.